Today's lesson is Broadway and Beyond, the evolution of musical theater. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to continue talking about musicals, or musical theater to be more precise. We've been talking about the history of musical theater. It goes back to the Romans, it goes back to the Greeks, and then, of course, we brought it into the 19th or the 20th century, rather, when Showboat came out. It was kind of considered the first real modern musical in which there was a continuous plot and songs to help tell the story.
Yes, indeed. And since then, there have been many wonderful musicals, both on Broadway and the West End, in the traditional live theater performance, but also in terms of movies. I think we talk about the golden age of the MGM musical, when they were making big budget production musicals in Hollywood in the 30s, 40s, stretching into the 50s. Many of those won big Oscar awards for all sorts of different performances and the songs and the direction, and also sold a lot of records. The soundtracks of some of these musicals became very popular hits on the pop music record charts and things like that. So musicals are great because I think they're very entertaining for all sorts of people. So let's find out about some of the different musicals out there, as well as some of the musicals that are going to be coming to Taiwan soon, in case this has gotten you interested in catching a musical.
Today, Broadway still has dozens of musicals showing on any given date. Since its heyday, however, the genre has matured and expanded. There are now musicals for almost every taste or interest.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 genre， 意思是艺术的类型、风格或是题材。例如 This movie is a classic in the horror genre. 这部电影是恐怖片中的经典之作。或者 Rock is my brother's favorite musical genre. 摇滚是我哥哥最喜欢的音乐类型。接着看到这个动词 expand， 表示扩展、发展，也可以是扩大或是增加的意思。例如 The company is expanding into Europe. 那家公司要扩展进军欧洲。或是 The toy maker expanded its product line to include video games. 该玩具商扩大生产线，涵盖电玩游戏。
Okay, so let's talk about the first paragraph here. Again, Broadway seems to be the place where musical theater is most popular, although, again, there are lots of performances in the West End in London as well. But today, Broadway still has dozens of musicals showing on any given date. Okay, so if you go to New York City and hang around the Times Square area, the theater district, you probably can go see some shows yourself. I think there's a place that sells discount tickets in Times Square there. You can try that. Or, of course, you could try to buy tickets online, which, of course, can be done using your credit card or whatever. And you can even reserve your seats and things like that. So, yes, indeed, you'll have lots of musicals to choose from. There are dozens of musicals showing on any given date. Okay, so right now, if you're in New York, of course, you can probably go see a show if you can get tickets like The Lion King and Cats. I guess Cats is not on anymore. Wicked, as you said, I think that's still playing. There are many others to choose from.
Yes, there are. And of course, if you can't get in to see one of the more famous ones on Broadway, there's also Off-Broadway, where some of the independent musicals, the smaller, more experimental ones, are just showing to interested patrons, interested audiences. It's a good way to find out the musicals of the future. I think like things that we've mentioned, like Book of Mormon, that are very popular and are hard to get tickets to now, they started Off-Broadway 10, 15 years ago. So maybe if you're feeling for something a little quirky, a little off the wall, try an off or even an off-Broadway production. But it says, since its heyday, however, the genre has matured and expanded. Yes, we're talking about here musicals that are a little different from the traditional form, things like Showboat or The Sound of Music, those popular musics from the past. That would be the heyday of the musical. When we say the heyday, it's kind of like the golden times, the best times for this type of thing. The heyday of music musicals back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. The heyday of rock and roll might have been the 60s or 70s or something like that. It's still around, it's still popular, but it's not as popular. It's not sort of the main thing in popular culture anymore. That was back during its heyday or during its best times. However, the genre or this style of entertainment, opera, classical, jazz, these are different genres of music and different genres of performance. So this style, the American Broadway musical style, it's matured, it's gotten older, it's changed over time as things also change as they mature over time, and it's expanded. So that's kind of the idea of what is a musical is now much bigger than it was. For example, you can use rock music, you can use hip-hop music and have breakdancing in a musical today, and people don't think that's strange. They just think that's a different style of this kind of show because musical can mean almost anything. As it says, there are now musicals for almost every taste or interest. No matter what kind of story you want, no matter what kind of style of music you want or performance you want, there is a musical out there for you. Let's find out about some of them in the next part of the article.
Political or historical dramatizations have proven particularly popular. Early examples include Evita and Les Miserables. More recently, Hamilton has received glowing praise for its powerful contemporary take on American history. Musicals based on the life or discography of a band, such as Mamma Mia, are also fan favorites, as are those adapted from movies, for example, The Little Mermaid. Other significant shows include The Phantom of the Opera, the longest-running Broadway musical at 35 years, and The Lion King, the highest earning at more than $2 billion and counting.
第二部分看到形容词 contemporary， 指现代的或是当代的。例如 The building has a very contemporary design. 这栋大楼有着非常当代的设计。也可以说 Many museums display contemporary as well as classical artwork. 许多博物馆展示当代和古典艺术作品。
Okay, it's time now to discuss the second part of our lesson for today. It says, political or historical dramatizations have proven particularly popular. Okay, so yes, indeed, as we said before, there are lots of new musicals coming out, and they cater to lots of different tastes and interests. So now we've got some that deal with politics, okay, and they also deal with history as well. They are dramatizations. I believe that's how you pronounce that word, which means you're taking something that is true or historical, and then you turn it into some kind of entertainment like a musical.
So you're going to change the story a little bit to make it entertainment, but a lot of the basic facts of the plot, they are true to history. Early examples include Evita and Les Miserables. So these are, of course, famous musicals with the titles there. As you can see, Evita is based on the life of Eva Perón. Don't cry for me, Argentina. That's the one. That's, again, an Andrew Lloyd Webber one. And Les Miserables is about, I believe, the Paris uprising during the Franco-Prussian War, the Communards, that kind of period. So a lot of people know that. And, of course, became a very popular movie with Anne Hathaway, and Hugh Jackman, I believe, was in that as well.
Sounds good.
Yep. And so a lot of people will know that show and might have even seen it both live and in the movie theaters or at home on television. More recently, Hamilton. Of course, that's another big ticket that a lot of people would want to get their hands on if they visit New York, or I believe it's on in London as well. Hamilton has received glowing praise for its powerful contemporary take on American history. Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote this great show. It's got American history with Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr and some of the founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, that period of history, the late 1700s, when America was becoming independent from Britain. But it's a contemporary take. When something is contemporary, it's of modern times, the times now that we live in, and a take on something is kind of like a version of something. something. So if we're doing a contemporary take on Romeo and Juliet, you might think of that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio in it, right? Where they weren't running around in Elizabethan clothes sword fighting. They were driving around in cars, living in LA, having gunfights and stuff. So it's a modern version of an older story. And I believe in Hamilton, yes, they're rapping and things like that. And I'm pretty sure they didn't have rapping back in the 1700s.
Or at least not the way we have it now.
Definitely not.
But again, yes, it's a contemporary interpretation or a contemporary take on American history, kind of an interpretation of what happened back then using modern sensibilities. And musicals based on the life or discography of a band such as Mamma Mia are also fan favorites, as are those adapted from movies. For example, The Little Mermaid. Okay, so again, here we've got some other kinds of musicals that you could enjoy. Some could be based on the life of a band or the life of a person or the discography of a band in which the show basically performs all the songs from that band, and maybe well, not all the songs, of course, but some of their songs.
Some of the big hits.
And they kind of string it together in a story or something, or it may not necessarily have a story, just a song by song going through the musical.
They usually kind of create a plot around it.
Try to tie it together in some
fit the lyrics of the popular songs into that plot. These are also called jukebox musicals, if you're a fan of them, like We Will Rock You. They take the Queen songs, and I believe there's Born to Run, where they take Bruce Springsteen songs, that kind of idea.
So yes, indeed, we've got these kinds of musicals going on nowadays. Discography is just the list of all the albums and songs that a band produces. You could see that when you look up a band on Wikipedia or something like that. It will show you all the albums that they've released. And Mamma Mia, of course, would be Mamma Mia, here we go again, Mama, or whatever it goes like that.
Very well done, sir.
It will feature most of the popular songs of ABBA. They are fan favorites, of course. If you're familiar with their music, of course, you want to go see these musicals. And, of course, we've got some that are adapted from movies, kind of the opposite, whereas in the past, they would start on Broadway and then later be adapted into a film, rather. But now they're taking films and then changing those into musicals. They are adapted from movies, which means they're changed from movies and made into a different form.
There you go. Disney's very good at that, right? I think they have a Beauty and the Beast musical. There's The Lion King, The Little Mermaid, and I'm sure many others coming along for us to enjoy. Other significant shows include The Phantom of the Opera, a very, very popular one, the longest-running Broadway musical at 35 years. That show has been on Broadway. I guess that's uninterrupted, so it's been performing possibly even in the same theater for 35 years. That is quite incredible. And, of course, they have touring versions. It's come here to Taiwan. I saw it in Canada many years ago. And The Lion King, which we mentioned as another Disney musical. This apparently is the highest earning or has made the most money on Broadway. How much money, you ask? $2 billion US. How's that for theater ticket sales? That's not just for one show, obviously. That's over probably 10 or 20 years. It says $2 billion and counting, which means that number is still growing, which tells us that show is still on. So you can go and see it. I'm imagining Lion King does so well because it's going to be selling tickets to both adults who will pay and the kids as well. And so they're probably selling more tickets than average shows, which probably have a more largely adult audience. But with The Lion King, you can pack the seats with grown-ups with their kids, and the kids probably want to come back 2 or 3 times. That leads to boffo box office, as they say in the entertainment trade or magazines in America, or lots of money in ticket sales.
And, of course, there are probably other possibilities coming out in the future. We could only just wait and see what they're going to come up with, and maybe you're going to make your travel plans to New York or wherever to see a show like this. But hey, we're going to talk about seeing some of those shows in Taiwan in our next paragraph. Let's listen.
For musical theater newbies in Taiwan, 2025 offers some great opportunities to experience the excitement of musical theater in person. Following spring performances of Notre Dame de Paris, based on a novel by the famous French author Victor Hugo, summer will see performances of Les Miserables, based on another Hugo masterpiece. In fact, the Les Miserables shows are part of a world tour celebrating 40 years since the musical's debut, a major milestone that shows the enduring popularity of this remarkable art form.
第3部分介绍名词 masterpiece， 表示杰作、名著、 也可以是代表作的意思。我们可以说 This painting is considered the artist's greatest masterpiece. 这幅画被认为是艺术家最伟大的杰作。又或者说 Hundreds of masterpieces were destroyed when a fire struck the museum. 数百件杰作在博物馆发生火灾时被摧毁。下一个看到名词 debut， 意思是首次发行、露面或是登台。例如 The band is set to make their debut at the music festival. 那支乐团将在音乐节上首次亮相。再看一个例子 The director made his debut with a film about time travel. 该导演以一部关于时间旅行的电影首次亮相。继续看到名词 milestone， 它表示里程碑或是转捩点。可以说 The completion of the new building marked a major milestone for the construction company. 新建筑物的完工为该建筑公司立下了个重大的里程碑。也可以说 Reaching 1 million subscribers was a milestone for the YouTube channel. 达到100万订阅者对这个 YouTube 频道来说是一个里程碑。最后看到 enduring 这个单字，它是形容词，指的是持久的或是不朽的。举例来说 Having a job you like will give you an enduring feeling of happiness. 拥有一份你喜欢的工作会让你感到持久的幸福感。或者 The painter has had an enduring impact on the local art scene. 该画家对当地艺术界的影响历久不衰。
Okay, so here in the final paragraph for today, it says, for musical theater newbies in Taiwan, 2025, this year, offers some great opportunities to experience the excitement of musical theater in person. You can see it yourself with your very own eyes. If you're a newbie to musical theater, that means you can get an introduction to this particular art form right here in Taiwan. A newbie, of course, is somebody who is new to something. They don't know much about the thing, or they just started learning about it. Maybe they're a little interested in it, and they want to learn more. You can be a newbie in all sorts of things, in a field of knowledge, or at a sport or something, or some kind of activity that requires some sort of skill. You're a newbie, and you might be a newbie to musical theater. I don't know much about it, but I'd like to learn more.
There you go. In the video game world, you might be described as a noob, spelled N-O-O-B, if you've never played a game and all the other players are like, why are you so terrible? You could say, hey, be kind, I'm a noob. I'm new to this. We also might describe a person like that as a rookie, if they're it's their first year trying it or first time trying it. Or you can use the adjective, I'm green. I'm very green at this. That's another way of saying I'm new, I'm inexperienced. Please be kind. Please show me the basic stuff because I don't know anything about this. So yes, 2025 is a great time to get into theater, musical theater if you're a newbie, or to revisit some of your favorites if you're not. If you're very experienced, you can see them in person, so that's good. These are live shows, so we're not just going to be seeing them in the movie theater or something like that. Following spring performances of Notre Dame de Paris, based on a novel by the famous French author Victor Hugo, this show has come to Taiwan several times. I believe it's originally in French, so I think people will be seeing the French performance with French songs, but of course there will be Chinese subtitles on screens either side of the stage, so that's one you might want to see for the first or maybe the second or third time. And then summer we'll see performances of Les Miserables, based on another Hugo masterpiece. When we describe something as a masterpiece, it's often that artist's best work. It's sort of their most famous work, their most historically and critically important work. A lot of people would say Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is his masterpiece. Mozart's one of his plays, maybe The Magic Flute or The Marriage of Figaro might be a masterpiece, maybe The Requiem or something. It's kind of the famous work, the most well-known and the most popular. And it says Les Miserables has been traveling for even longer than the Phantom of the Opera has been on Broadway. That's incredible.
Indeed. So it's been going on for quite some time. Les Miserables shows are part of a world tour celebrating 40 years since the musical's debut, a major milestone that shows the enduring popularity of this remarkable art form. So again, the musical had its debut 40 years ago. So debut, of course, is when something first comes out, when it's first released, when you can first see it. And so it's been around for a long time. It's kind of celebrating. It's kind of an anniversary. It's a major milestone. A milestone, of course, is something that marks history. It's a very important event. And yes, indeed, this is a major milestone, and it shows the fact that this show has great endurance. It is enduring, which means it can last a long time. So you better take advantage of this opportunity and go see it now. Don't worry if it's in a language you can't understand, because as Mike said, they will probably have the subtitles on either side of the stage, much like they do during Chinese opera performances when you can't really understand what they're singing, so you have to read the script. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny without subtitles.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分有一句写到 It's powerful contemporary take on American history 来表达其对美国历史强而有力的现代诠释。那 take 在这边是当名词，表示诠释看法，它也可以指说独特的处理方式或变化。那后面常常会接 on 加名词。当我们用 somebody's take on something 就可以表达某人对什么什么做出的诠释看法。例如 What's your take on the issue? 你对这个议题有什么看法呢？再造一个例句Not everyone appreciates the film's modern take on the classic fairy tale. 并非所有人都欣赏这部电影对那个经典童话故事的现代诠释。好，读到课文下一句，以乐团生平或音乐作品为基础的音乐剧，如 Mamma Mia 也深受粉丝喜爱。那改编自电影的作品，如小美人鱼，亦深受喜爱。文中是用到As are those adapted from movies 来表达改编自电影的作品也是如此，也深受喜爱的语义。在这里呢 as 是当连接词，表达如同也是。那要表达和前方子句的主词做了相同的事情，跟前面叙述的情况相同时，我们就可以把后面重复的字词省略，改用 as 加上 be 动词或助动词加主词去表达什么什么也是，如同什么什么。要注意的是，这边的主词它跟 be 动词或助动词是有倒装的， be 动词或助动词要配合后方的主词的单复数和时态，像 as am I 我也是， as does my sister 我姐姐也是。好，那通常当前方子句它使用 be 动词的话，我们的 as 后方也会用 be 动词。当前方子句是用到一般动词的话，那我们就要根据时态以及人称，在 as 后面使用适当的助动词。我们这边造两个例句。Ben is a baseball fan, as is his son. Ben 是个棒球迷，他儿子也是。Ben likes baseball, as does his son. Ben 喜欢棒球，那他儿子也是。好，这边要比较一下哦。如果我们用 so 加上 be 动词或助动词加上主词，也可以表达什么什么也是。不过要注意 so 在这边是当副词，那跟前一句之间就必须用连接词 and 或者是用分号隔开。举例来说Reading is relaxing, and so is listening to music. 阅读很令人放松，听音乐也是。好，那以上就是今天的重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Genre. Janine's favorite film genre is horror because she enjoys scary stories. Expand. The company expanded rapidly over the last decade, opening new offices around the world. Contemporary.Many contemporary authors write about social and political issues. Adapt. A large number of fairy tales have been adapted into cartoons for children. Masterpiece. The painter's greatest masterpiece is displayed in the city's most famous museum. Debut. The festival had its debut 5 years ago and quickly became a popular yearly event. Milestone.Graduating from college is a major milestone in a person's life. Enduring. Shakespeare's plays have had an enduring influence on theater and literature.
Discussion Starter starts now!
It's time now for our discussion starter. The question is, have you ever been to a musical? If yes, what did you think? If no, would you like to see one? Why or why not?
We'll all go with yes. I once saw a performance. I should say I was lucky enough to have once seen a performance of the original cast of Cats in London. I was a young kid. I thought it was great. They had all sorts of things I'd never seen, from the big garbage cans on stage, all the performers and dancers dressed and having makeup like cats, and even, and as a kid this kind of blew my mind, a revolving stage. The stage would kind of turn and spin as the audience sat in their seats, and it was something like I had never seen before.
Well, I actually have seen a couple of musicals before, many years ago, but I will answer no to this question just because we need a no answer here. I've never been to a musical, and I wouldn't be interested in seeing one because I kind of think that musicals are a girl thing. Like, girls like to go see musicals. Us macho guys wouldn't be caught dead watching a musical. We'd rather go see some action movie instead. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.